Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is a both great pleasure and an immense honor for me to be here today in Mumbai to deliver this year annual lecture of the Godrej Archive. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude and to organizers, especially Avrunda and Shweta, who organized everything, and they have made my visit and this event possible. The annual lecture series here has hosted numerous distinguished historians before me, so I'm truly humbled to contribute to this remarkable tradition. Today, I will discuss a company that has not only left a profound industrial and economic impact, but has also shaped countless communities around the world. Bata story is one of innovations, adaptability, and resilience. Actually, my presence here today is also highly symbolic because this lecture is taking place exactly 100 years after the first Thomas Bata visited India. That was in the spring of 1925. This is the spring of 2025. In Mumbai, where we gather today, is actually the place of the first Bata store, which was opened in 1926. And the third connection is here also because I'm originally from former Yugoslavia, but I later moved to the Czech Republic. But actually only in Czechoslovakia, Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and India, Bata reached the same status of dominance in the interwar period in India and Yugoslavia as in Czechoslovakia. And furthermore, so my connection is also there. And also the Borovo in Yugoslavia and Batanagar in India were the world of the Bata towns were the largest one and most significant one. So I see numerous connections of me being here and also find it highly symbolic. But one of the greatest challenges to researching a company with such a vast reach is the highly decentralized nature of its archival records. It's come deliberately after, like, the Second World War, company went into extreme decentralization as a response to other things which I will represent. So unlike many industrial giants that centralize their historical documentation, as for example Adidas, which have a wonderful the company archive, or also the Godrej, Bata records are scattered across multiple continents. So you can find them in Zlín, you can find them in France, you can find them in Canada, you can find them also here in India and numerous other countries. So this fragmentation possesses both difficulties and opportunities for historians. On the one hand, locating and accessing records requires navigating a complex global archival landscape. On the other, it provides a unique lens through which to study the dynamics of globalization, industrialization, and cultural exchange. And this decentralization of the Bata archives reflects also the company's broader operational philosophy. So Bata did not just simply export the shoes from Zlín to here or elsewhere. It embedded itself into local economies, adapting to regional markets and establishing self-sufficient production centers worldwide. So this makes its archives particularly valuable for historians of global business, as they offer insights into transnational labor practices, knowledge transfer, and economic migration. And with this, I will begin my story. Here I will left my notes, so I will just speak because and I put a lot of the photos, and maybe you even can recognize some of them. In my lecture, I will first talk about the global history of the Bata. Then I will put a little bit attention to Bata in India, and then I will move to those global footprints. So I will talk about different archives, what we can find there, and what stories those archives are giving to us. Another thing, usually historians are a very conservative group. Usually historians speak from the past and finish in presence. I will do the vice versa, so I will speak about first what is Bata today, and then I will go to the past. As you can see from this list, the founder of the company, you can see the photo over there was the Thomas Bata the first. Then his son next to, on that photo over there, it was his son Thomas Bata. and who was handing the hand to the Thomas George Bata, and Thomas Bata, which Dr. Godrej met, was the one who led the company to his greatest glory. At the moment, it became the world's largest shoemaker producer. Thomas George Bata was the one who led the company during the 1990s, during the difficult times for them and during the decline. And Thomas Archer Bata was the one who was son of Thomas George, who was also involved with the company. He left his place of global market director in 2018. As you can see, that family was not very inventive with the names. Right now, I just recently read the interview of Thomas Archer that he said that I will be probably the first Bata if I get a son that I will not name him Thomas. So I'm looking forward to see if that will work, or he will be persuaded by the family tradition. Nevertheless, today the global Bata firm is owned by the three daughters of the Thomas John Bata and Sonia Bata, and they bought the share of the Thomas Archer Bata. However, also today, as much as the latest data which we have, the Bata is still among the 10 largest footwear producers in the world. Nevertheless, its market focus moved from its traditional markets in North America, Western Europe. It's moved to mostly to Southeast Asia, and the most important individual market today for Bata is India, with its 5 factories and this very large network of the stores. And to illustrate this, like the importance of India, we can just find out that Bata actually have its first Indian CEO of the global company, that is Mr. Sandeep Kataria. So let's go back from the today to the past. Here you can see also some of the posters from the 1930s, and the far one is actually one from India. So you can see which style were where in the 1930s, and also the prices. So you can buy it, some of them for 1 or 2 or 4 rupees. Here also, and actually I play maybe a little bit of nostalgic on you, because those are the posters and material from the marketing material from Bata from the 1990s here in India. So maybe you recognize some of them, maybe you don't recognize it. I don't know that. However, let's go back to the story. This is one of my favorite citations about Bata. It was made by the International Labor the Office in the 1930s, which they claim Bata already at that time attracted so much attention from the other industrials, from the workers' organizations, also from academics, because actually nothing from its geographical surroundings suggests that will be their successes. Because if you even look today, that part of the Czech Republic was earlier the peripheral part of Austria-Hungary, was the peripheral part of the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia. It's a part of the republic without almost any natural resources. It's also without large population. So actually nothing show up that actually the firm from this small town will become the world's largest one in its field at some moment. So I say it's one of my favorite quotations about Bata. And here on this photo you can actually see where all those Bata towns were made. The original one was in Zlín, in Czech Republic, but then all the small copies of the Zlín with their functionalist architecture were spread on all inhabited continents except Australia. And this key to initial success and also the Bata philosophy was, if you see the shoe there, that shoe is made from the canvas and leather, and part of the leather. It was shoe made in the end of the 19th century, 1895, 96, and it was at that time majority of the shoes which was sold in Czech lands, in Austria-Hungary, in Europe, were made from the leather. They were quite expensive. So what the Bata did, they start to produce those the canvas with combination with leather shoes massively and on much cheaper prices. And that kind of strategy became the official strategy for next 130 years. Produce massively, large numbers with affordable prices. Now, Already in the early 1920s, Batas became too big for Czechoslovak market. So they started the first international expansion, which began on the beginning of 1920s. This was unsuccessful because they really didn't understand well how the market functioned abroad. So in the rest of the 1920s, they mostly export via wholesale. After that, like they already fulfilled the market in Europe, so they thought it is time to begin the second internationalization, but not just like the exporting, but also founding the factories and the company towns abroad and jumping the tariff walls. This was accelerated with the Great Depression from 1929. Countries were introducing the tariff walls and trying to put the import down. So for that reason, or for that moment, the Bata started to found the factories abroad, and this like the expansion stopped in the Second World War. Nevertheless, the hardest blow came in the 1945. All of the Bata assets in the newly socialist countries of Eastern Europe were nationalized. So the firm lost 75% of its assets. And also what was more important, it lost Zlín as a global headquarter. So for that reason, first even they moved to London. For that reason, instead of a centralized company, which was very centralized, like before the 1939, every decision was made in Zlín. They moved after that to complete decentralization. And for that, like, well, basically almost every company was more or less independent from the other part. There was only one global center which was seeing the global strategy, but like the companies themselves like worked as independent ones. And that was also one of the reasons why every country in the world where the Bata was thought that actually Bata was their own brand. This was the response to the things which was happening in the 1945, and also to some response to some degree to things which were happening in earlier period, 1920s, 1930s, with the numerous boycotts against Bata. And they also renamed the company. It was right now the Western Bata organization that was introduced to be like not be confused with this nationalized Bata in Czechoslovakia. And they began the large expansion in these decolonized countries. And at late 1970s, it became the world's largest footwear producer. However, this changed in the 1990s. Globalization came, the Bata didn't adapt too well, and also the production shifted from the Western countries to the East, and with Bata came a lot of the changes. All of the Bata factories in the Western Europe or the North America were closed. And with closing of that factory, also because of this extreme decentralization, endangered were also the archives. So for that reason, university hired me back in 10 years ago to start to work on their history and start to work also on digitalization of those endangered archives. So before we move to the archives, I will just say a few words about Bata in India, which probably you will know more of that than me. This is actually the first photo of the Thomas Bata in India in 1925. And this is actually the next to it. It's like the second photo. It's actually not January 1931, it's January 1932. I just made a small mistake. At that moment, he came to his second visit to India. And over there, you can see the plan of his visit, which was at that time called by New York Times the world's longest business trip made by plane. So he traveled by plane from the Zlín to Batavia in Indonesia. And why he comes second time to India? Because, and here you can actually see the photo of the first Bata store in Mumbai. And over there you can see the first Bata commercial in India, which was given as a bill, as a hand bill to people on the streets in 1926 in Kolkata. So the first Bata store was opened in 1926, and they actually thought this, like the export from the Zlín will grow exponentially, it will be in millions of pairs of shoes. Actually, that did not happen. So for the Bata decided to come again to see what is not working on this market, and in 1931 he came again and see actually that like exporting shoes of the Zlín is not working well. So that he need to found the factory here. So that he founded the parent company, Bata Shoe Company Limited in Kolkata, and bought the land for building a town and a factory, and bought also next year the ship in Germany, rename it to Moravia, and with that ship sent the Czech workers and machines with supplies for 1 year from the Europe to Kolkata. The production began next year in Konagar, which was in some interim facilities near Calcutta, and in 1936 it's moved to Batanagar. Batanagar became largest of all Batak towns. At its peak, workforce was almost 20,000 people in the 1970s. Nowadays, it's still largest Bata factory, but it's had about 2,500 workers. I was there before 8 years ago doing a research, so maybe the nowadays situation changed. I don't have the nowadays numbers. What was also important for Batanagar, there was also an important Czech community, about 150 people there. And here I also put some photos from the factory, rubber factory in the 1950s. Also some of the photos from the 1940s, the war production, and also one of the photo of a commercial photo from the Batanagar. But what was more important, already from the 1920s, Bata family started to nurture its relations with Indian elites. So the first visit which I founded was the one Bengali politician, J.C. Gupta. I don't know his name, just like the initials, from the Bengal Congress Party, who came to Zlín in 1927. Then in 1938, Nehru and his daughter Indira were traveling around Europe, and they were in Czechoslovakia. So the Bata sent a plane to pick up them in Prague and bring them to Zlín. And there is a really great news. There is a really great article about that visit in the newspaper in Zlín. They say it like, numerous people are coming to see like the miracle we are creating here. But like there were never more eloquent gentlemen came than Nehru. So and that moment this relation started. So you can see also his photo in Zlín. Then you can see one of his photos when he was visiting Batanagar. But why was that important? Because that relationship was going double in both directions. So here you can see like the maps where all the Bata factories in India were founded with the years. So what was important in 1951, because of partition of India, the Bata stayed without the factory in the western part of India, which was in Batapur, now in Pakistan. So in that moment, they actually thought to build a new factory which will cover the western part of India here in Mumbai. But then, as John Bata, in his autobiography said, he was talking with that idea with the first Indian president, Rajendra Prasad, and also with Nehru, and they told him, actually, we don't need a Bata factory in Mumbai. There are already like the working possibilities for people in Mumbai to find all elsewhere. There is a big market. We need a new Bata factory somewhere where there is a large concentration of the refugees from Pakistan. So for that reason, that factory was built instead of here in Mumbai in 1951 in Faridabad. And like the last two Bata factories were built in the south of the India near Bengaluru, end of the 1980s and beginning of the 1990s. Here I also put some photos. So you can see some of them, like those are commercials and the Bata newsletters from the 1960s and 70s. And also here you can see some of the promotion materials also from India from the 1960s and 70s. And also this one, actually on the far left, you can see the most important and most successful Bata product. Those were the sandaks. Sandaks were sold. There was a cheap plastic shoes which was sold in hundreds of millions of pairs all around the globe. So for me as a historian, this came like researching on Bata history came with a big challenge. First of all, there is no central archive. I told you that. So then there is a partial central archive, but just for a period before 1939. And even that central archive, some of the documents were destroyed before the Germans entered the city because they didn't want to know which people are sent abroad, because then also Bata was trying to save some of the Jewish workers, so he sent more than 100 Jewish families abroad. So for that reason, some of the documents are lost at that time. So majority of the research is, even today, is ending at the pre-Second World War period. For me, as a historian, I'm always challenging the stuff, and I want to do something that other people do not do. So for that means like that if I wanted to do more on the history after the Second World War. But for that reason, again, we are coming to this extreme decentralization, that large number of documents are actually lost. So for the period when the headquarters was in London, there is almost no surviving documents. Almost all, because when the company was closed in England in 2006, nobody was actually in charge what will happen after that. So documents were not sent to some national archive or something, and they are lost. The best documented period is actually period from the 1962 to 2004, when the headquarters of the company was in Toronto. So you can see also on the map how those, like the Bata headquarters was moving around the world. In that 2014, the Bata family donated about 300 meters of the archival material to the University of Toronto. And I'm usually going almost every autumn to research there, to do also some lectures, and I really love that city, and I understand why they choose that city to be placed there. So what you can find there really is like some of the key documents for the global history. That means like the annual records, confidential letters, business plans. Also some of the Thomas J. Bata businesses and private correspondences, some senior manager correspondences, and also the collected manager biographies. And here you can actually see how their inventory look. So you can see, like, or if you look well, you can see how that, like, actually you can find documents from different countries. But just let's go practically on what is into that document. I'm not sure that do you see this well. It's like the projector. Nevertheless, I will try to say it. This is the confidential letter which was sent by the Thomas John Bata to his main lawyer, Dr. Charles Euchre. In this document from 1962, after the Forward Conference in Milan, where they were making the plans for the next decade, he explained to him what they achieved up to that time and what is the future plans. And he's saying to him, like, if we want to continue this way of operation, if we want to continue this, like this expansion, we need to open the 4 new factories every year. We need to employ until end of this decade 35,000 people, and we need to open so many new stores. And also he's saying this, like the letter, we decided that the seat of the company will move to Toronto, and what is actually like the services of those, like of the headquarters, and just like providing the advices, but not really controlling what is happening on the individual level of individual companies. And actually then you go to these numbers, you can see here the numbers of the Bata company for 100 years. And if you say it like in the 1960, they were employing 57,000 people. And he said in a plan in 1962 that it's their plan to employ additional 35,000 people. If you see the number in 1970, that is that. 35,000 more people were employed, opened were like more thousands or more of the new stores, and also the opened were more than there are 20 new factories. That really shows the Bata aggressive global expansion, where they are trying to open in every country possible the smaller factories, not the large one as earlier here in Batanagar, or the one in France, or the one in England, but the smaller one up to 500 workers, which will be focused just to supply domestic market. So all of those factories were actually not, as nowadays, for example, Nike producing the shoes in Indonesia, but selling it in the global market. all of those Bata factories were supposed to produce on the local level as it's saying there. So even in India, from all overall production for 30, 40 million pairs of shoes, only 11% of the 11% were actually exported. Everything else was sold here in India and so on. And that was same thing with with the factories in Malaysia, factories in Indonesia and elsewhere. I think that highest number I found it was like around 21% in Indonesia. All the other shoes were produced and sold on the domestic market. Here you can see how actually Bata responded on the crisis. So in the 1900s, unfortunately you cannot see it, but I will need to tell you about it. This is actually the document from the beginning of 1973. In the Chile, at that time was the increasingly socialist government of Salvador Allende, which wanted to nationalize the Bata. And here in this, the letter, you can see how they wanted to avoid that, how they will deter it, how they will trying to think the slow down to waiting for election or something to happen. This is March of 1973. So this letter, they are explaining their strategy, what they will do to avoid nationalization. So what happened in September, it was the Pinochet putsch. At that moment, this ended, this danger ended. Nevertheless, what was the consequences of that? During after the Pinochet putsch, about 57 or 58 workers of Bata disappeared. They were very known leftist activists, and Pinochet, after the putsch, they just disappeared in an unknown direction. But that's happened to tens of thousands of people in Chile at that moment. So for that reason, how you can see how how the one company was influenced by this war things in the world. There is another document from 1975 when they are speaking about what was happening after that. They say actually right now this danger of nationalization is not anymore existing, and actually right now our factory, our enterprise is going well. Bata is still present in Chile, but only as a store. So there is no more factory there. And those were the documents from which was given by the family to University of Toronto. But there is another form of the documents which are actually in the state organized archives. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is Center for this archive for Industry and Technology in France. And in that archive are actually documents which were saved after the closure of the Bata French factory in 2001. Then again, we are coming to this decentralization. Nobody was in charge of the closure of the factory. So all of those documents could be lost. What's happened, there was a historian and unionist, Alain Gatti, who rented a truck and took more than 350 meters of the documents to his home, to his barn, to his garage. His wife almost divorced from him for that, because he... Nevertheless, those documents were there for more than 3-4 years until he arranged the thing with the state archive, and those documents are moved right now in a very nice archive in this Moselle. And it actually saving that archive, you can find actually some of the best preserved materials from the French-speaking countries. And you can see also here, but unfortunately you cannot see, how the archive inventory looks. So you can see what you can find of those Department of Madagascar, Department of Saigon, etc. And what is also important in this archive, which I found it, is actually that Bata was not just, for example, producing shoes for themselves. Bata was also producing the shoes for other the producers. So, and you see how this actually, this power dynamics is changing. In the 1970s, Bata is way bigger than Adidas. So when they are contracting, they're having contracts about the Bata will produce shoes for Adidas, and Bata is actually dictating the terms, what will happen and everything. End of the 1980s, right now is not that that Adidas is chasing Bata. We want for us that you produce shoes for us. But then in the 1980s, actually Bata is contacting them. Do you want to continue our agreement? How we can deal in that? So you can see like how actually these things in a global footwear production is like is changing. And for that reason, this archive was very important. And then we come to another like part of the archive. Those were the archives of the Bata, which was made by private initiative. And in Switzerland, factory also closed in 1990. The official documents disappeared. But then what's happened? The former workers gave their own memorabilia, their own documents. They were organized in an archive in Milan, which is called Bata Archives. But what was there important? You cannot find the global picture. You can see the picture which was in this archive in Toronto, or this archive in France. But you can see like really the lives of ordinary workers there. So you can see what they were giving to their contracts and how they developed, employment was going, etc. And for that, here you can see also some dossiers, etc. So it was kind of really, that part of the puzzle is fulfilling the role which we didn't have. And then we are coming also to the archives of operational Bata enterprises. And that is, numerous of them are saved. However, most of them lack archival inventories. And for historians, without archive inventory, we are basically blind, without the archivist. So we come to the archive and get archive inventory and order the stuff we want. Nevertheless, I came to the archive in Batanagar. There is 5,000 meters of the documents. 90 years of existence of the firm, 5,000 meters without the inventory. Well, what you can do? I spent 1 month there. I could spend three years there and not be finished. So I was just going that like mistake, find something. This was interesting. This is not interesting. However, that is like the really challenging stuff. Some of those archives, as in Batanagar or Limuru in Kenya, are very extensive, thousands of meters of the documents. However, some of the archives are lost to do some fires or other accidents. That's happened, for example, in Peru. So in Peru, you just have documents after 2000. All the documents before 2000 just like disappeared in a fire. Others, like was best in Netherlands, the only Bata factory which is still working in the Western Europe, preserve only a limited selection of documents. What that means? That factory exists from 1934, 91 years. In there, so you suppose when you come there, you will see like abundance of documents as in Batanagar or elsewhere. Then you come to see the small archive room with 35 meters of documents. What happened with the rest? And I was talking with the people there, nobody knew. So what you can do, I was just there for a few times, I did my research, I basically copied and scanned almost everything interesting. However, those are documents which you can find, but there are also another source of the documents which I was using a lot to fulfill that puzzle, the missing puzzle. Those were the Bata newspapers. Because in every Bata town, in every Bata factory published were the newspaper. This one is actually Batanagar News. It's very informative because those newspapers at that time were not just covering the factory topics. They were also covering the lives of the workers, lives in the villages. They were giving on almost every number few biographies of the people who came from the shop floor to become the managers or something. So that was really good. So those Bata journals before the 1960s were very, very useful, and I used them a lot. Of course, they are published by Bata. So basically, you will not find anything which is really sensitive or something. But still, they are very useful historical resource. However, after 1960s, those Bata journals became the smaller format, just photos and also some smaller news. And that smaller news was like that manager came to this factory, that in Kenya was opened the new store, this person was appointed to be a regional manager, etc. Nevertheless, even that time, you can find some of the documents. For example, we all the time thought that the Bata factory in Australia, in Mornington, was founded in 1981. Then we actually just found it in one of the newsletters that it was actually opened in 1982. It's a small step, but so some documents you can find it there. So you can see here some of the examples of those those Bata newsletters. They were published like in thousands of the numbers. But this is one of my favorite, Bata Drummer, which it was published in Ceylon, Sri Lanka. And here you can see some of them which were used as which you could really use as historical sources. So at that moment, this Bata news is from Belcamp in the United States, and you can see that you can read that actually that county was at that moment economical problems. The people are getting laid off, but they are saying we are good, we are Bata, we are not laying off the people. Over that, it was the new Borovo for Yugoslavia, and that was actually published in late 1944. At that moment, that was the last month of the fascist puppet regime in Croatia. So you can see what was happening for that factory journal, what was actually happening in that city, in that town. And over there you can see like the visit of the Central African president at that time, Bokassa, to a Bata factory in Congo. Later he proclaimed himself to be an emperor, found the Central African Empire, etc. So you can see like how many, and all of those, like the Bata newsletters was also showing the visits of those significant dignitaries. But nevertheless, we still miss the human perspectives. So we also try to do the oral history research and to speak with the former managers, and also going to different Bata towns around the world and to speak with those people who are living there, how they were lived when Bata was there in those towns, how they lived after the Bata left, what happened to those towns. So you can see some of those, like the managerial testimonies are very positive, almost hagiographic. They love their life with Bata. Nevertheless, if you read all of that, I can move to the next slide, because Runda told me that I have 40 minutes at most. But anyhow, if anybody will be wanted to have this presentation, I can send it to you, to anybody who will be interested, or Runda can send it. But some of other, like the testimonies, was actually not so good. One of the managers saying like there is no work and balance with his Bata, and if he worked in the 1970s and 80s with Bata and having a mobile phone, he will not do that. And also you can see also some of the historical things. One of those, like, and the best one is like that most men loved working with Bata and the wives hated it, probably because most men were not at home at all. But that one is particularly interesting, the last quotation, because he is saying he was one of the senior managers, and he is saying actually what led to our decline. We moved from the things we were very good at it, that means production and selling, we start to do other things. And when then you go to the archives in Toronto, and then you find out that Bata actually in 1980s, in 1982 had a meeting with like the largest, one of the leading real estate agents in North America, to which real estate they will invest the money. At one moment in 1985 and 1986, Bata was even launched the Burger King franchise on Bahamas. So they started to do at that time so many different things. And that was the thing that they would say, we are actually, what we are best, we are actually not doing our best stuff. We are trying to do some other stuff. And I think right now Bata is again returning to its roots, and again starting what we are good. We are good in producing the shoes, we are good in selling shoes. No more real estate things. And the workers' experiences. There are also some of those for Bata had for every worker personal dossier. Nevertheless, from those personal dossier, you really can't find too much. So to fulfill our picture, we need to go to the documents of the International Labour Office to see what was what was really position of the workers, what kind of benefits they have. And the last thing that we did, to fulfill that picture, we did oral history. So in the last few years, we are going around different Bata towns in Western Europe and interviewing the people and talk with them what was kind of living with there, what happened after that. For some of those people, they say it like it was the best time of their lives. Because in those Bata towns, you will grow up in the Bata house, then you will go to the kindergarten, also founded by Bata, then you will go to school, also founded by Bata. After finishing high school, you will return and work for that, and several generations of them actually working for Bata. And in the evenings, you will have a cultural house where they will have the different cultural events, the music, the cinema, and for some people really love that. And the best was one of the interviewers in East Tilbury in London. He told us we were so privileged. We were the only town in the 50 kilometers that actually have a pool. So all the other kids were coming and trying to asking us to sneak them to that pool. So they were so proud to be the Bata men. Of course, some other people didn't like that. They said they felt too much control because their employer is not just their employer, but is also landlord. They have much more influence on them. So I said this oral history, this thing that we are actually working much lately. And I will finish my presentation. I hope Runda I'm in 40 minutes. Good, perfect. For the first time, usually I'm speaking too much, and usually my students are staying too long. So, as a conclusion, Bata was among the first firm to embrace globalization, and he actually behaved as a modern firm from 21st century in before 100 years ago. So that was also one of the key of his successes. This constant search for a new markets and very aggressive the internationalization. Unique success story. I don't know any other Central European firm which became the largest in its field. I talk with so many different historians from the best universities, and nobody knows the story. So this is very, very unique story. However, there are coming so many challenges of researching because there is no central archives, there are very, very fragmented records, and because of this post-1945 decentralization. Bata was also coming and leaving from different markets. Was entering markets, then leaving because of nationalization. I love the story of what was happening in Algeria. First of all, the state nationalized 70% of these shares. Then founded its own the state company, but then found that the state producer is not working well, so they returned not just shares to Bata, but they also put the state-owned producer under the Bata managers. Then in a few years later, what's happened? The government changed, a new government nationalized that again. Or in case in Kenya, during the Africanization process, actually the stores were given to the Kenyans, but keeping the name of the Bata. But factory was still owned by Bata and supplying those stores. And they accepted that kind of arrangement because they wanted to stay on that market, and Bata is still in Kenya. From researching about Bata, we actually, beyond Bata itself, we get really good insight into corporate strategies, transnational networks, and the evolving nature of globalization. With that, I will thank you for your attention.